Welcome back to the show, guys. In our first episode of Beyond the Chart podcast, hosted by me, Antonio, aka Big Gains Club, as well as Emmanuel Trades. Emmanuel, how are you doing today? And I'm excited to be here with you.
I'm very excited for our first episode of the podcast. This is going to go down in the history books. I already know it, so I'm very excited for the first one.
Well, first, let's talk about a little bit about how we met each other to begin with, because I think a lot of people don't know we actually how we met, and they're kind of like, damn, Antonio and Emmanuel are partnering up, because you're kind of bigger on TikTok, I'm a little bit bigger on Instagram. So just to give a little bit of a background, we both live near each other. We met at an event. That's why it's important to network with people that like-minded people. And yeah, we've been hanging out. We've had really good commonalities when it comes down to trading, inspiration, and we were talking about there's not really a place out there that is a podcast style that helps traders understand a little bit about finance, the markets, and everything in between. So we decided to kind of jump into it. Man, if you give a little background first on how you trade and people you want people to know, and then I'll go myself.
Yeah, for sure. So to go off that, yeah, we met at a WAP dinner, which is essentially this digital marketplace that we both use for both of our, businesses and our trading communities. And then yeah, we figured out we both lived in Boca, and yeah, like two traders living in Boca. I didn't know any traders here. I moved here like a year ago, so it was definitely good meeting him. But I've been trading for about close to 4.5 years now. My father was actually the one who taught me around 2020 when COVID hit. And that was kind of like the Super Bowl for traders. I felt like it was probably the easiest environment to trade in and make money in. That's when I started learning. But yeah, I trade in the stock market. So I trade mostly individual stocks. My go-to, I would say, is like low cap, penny stocks, but I trade, small cap, mid cap. The one thing I don't really like to do is like name brands. Like I don't trade like Apple, Tesla. I don't really do stuff like that. But yeah, mostly in the stock market, and that's for day trading.
It's interesting you said the stock market. Well, sorry, 2020 was a Super Bowl stock market because me as a trader, I had been doing it before. That's exactly how I felt. It was like I had been trading or started like my trading journey in 2014, 2015. I was not good at all, but over the years I had more knowledge. I would say than 90% of people that got into the stock market in 2020. Everybody was at home. And for me, it was like, wow, all the skills I've learned, there's just opportunities, A plus setups every single day. And if anybody had experience from before 2020, realize like, wow, we made so much more money than we would in a typical year, which was great. And it's kind of like the opportunity, like, all that work you put in, the timing was perfect. I trade somewhat similarly, again, stock market. I trade mostly, recently it's been the NASDAQ and S&P 500 indices, but I've also traded some mid-cap stocks like yourself. I do trade a lot of blue chips like Tesla, Nvidia, Apples, and also I mostly trade options, so that's kind of why it helps me with some of the volatility and a lot of volume in the option side. Because if you trade like a smaller mid-cap stock and then there's no volume on your option contracts, you're gonna buy them and you got nobody to sell them to, so you're gonna be a little bit screwed. So trading some blue chips tends to be a little bit better in that regard. And then yeah, I've been trading for a little. Shoot, I feel like I lost count already. It's already been 11 years. But I tell people this is like my first 4 years. I feel like almost don't count because like a lot of traders, it was I was young. I was 17. I was watching Timothy Psych ads. That's how I got into it. You got into it with your dad, which is probably way better. My dad was not into trading at all. None of my family, they all still think it's crazy. So I got into it like late at night when I was in high school, watching some trading ads, and I just really liked it. Then I joined the military, came back from the military. I joined the reserve, and one of my buddies in one of my classes, he would sit in the back, and this was when Trump was going to become president, and he was like betting on like all the war stocks at the time, thinking like, oh, Trump's going to be president. I think it was like what, 2015, 2016. All this wars, we're going to go to war. All the stocks are going to go up. So he put like $2,000 in like these option contracts for some rocket company. So I followed that. I got in a nice little bonus from the army. So I put in like $2,000 in there. We all lost it all, of course. And that's, but I really just enjoyed it. We would talk about like going working on Wall Street. We'd talk about like all this shit. And then his dad was a little bit into trading. So he kind of showed some things and just kept at it. Until finally I actually became pretty good. And then 2020 was like a really big year for me personally, where I was like, yeah, I don't need to finish school, or I don't need to go back to my job, whatever it was at the time. And that's how it was. So it's kind of funny how you got into it with your dad, and I feel like that's way better. That's why I think you became a lot more profitable faster than I was. Like it took me from, think about it, when I got into it 2014 2015, it wasn't really till like 2018 19. It's 4 or 5 years of learning, losing money, trying to find different ways on YouTube to, whatever different courses I was buying. While with you having somebody that like already had done it, and that's kind of the importance of having a mentor. Likely for you was your dad, so you trusted him right away. You knew he was good. So tell me a little bit on like how your dad like taught you. How was that process? Because I know trading is really hard. So having like your dad trying to teach you, I can see myself getting frustrated. To be like,
Yeah, I think most people's path when it comes to trading, or honestly like any sort of money making skill online, is that they like find it on an ad or on YouTube, then they experiment, they do their own research, they try it themselves, and they ultimately like fail a bunch of times. And it takes them, a long time to actually see success. And for me, like I wasn't ever really interested in trading. Like growing up, like I never really cared for finance or the stock market. Actually, my first 2 years of college, I studied engineering because like everyone told me that like you're gonna get a great job out of school, you're gonna make hopefully six figures right out of school. And for me, like I never really had a passion for it. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then COVID hit, so everything was on lockdown. I was a sophomore in college, and I'm back at home. I didn't have anywhere to go because everything was on lockdown. My parents were also really like scared we're gonna get COVID, so I was just at my house all day, every day. And my dad would come downstairs, and his trading started to click really, really well. Like he had some success in the past for a few years, but like you said, COVID was like the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden he would come downstairs on certain days and he'd be up like 20K from day trading in a single day. And he didn't do any swing trading. So like all of his positions he opened and closed the same day. And like for me, that was like impossible. Like what do you like 20K, 15K in a day? It was ridiculous. And he was the one who started to like almost encourage me to start, where he was like, listen, there's nothing for you to do anyway. You don't really have a passion for engineering. I'm doing really well with this. Let's see if you can find success. And I remember he would teach me like all of his strategies, his concepts. I wasn't trading then. He was just showing me, for about 3 weeks, showing me his methodology and stuff. And then I went into his office on that third week, and I got myself a really small little Dell laptop. Literally, the screen was like 15 inches. And that was my first trading computer. And I would sit next to him and just trade. I didn't know what I was doing. And my first ever wins in the market were actually me scanning stocks and giving him ideas, and then he would make money off of those ideas. And whenever that happened, that was almost as it felt like I made money on it, because I'm like, okay, I found setups that my dad made money. Cool, maybe in a few months I'm gonna make money off those setups. And I did that for about 3 months, and then over that 3 months, I obviously started trading myself more.
And what size account you start with? Did your dad give you like a little?
It was like a paper trading account. Like I
Okay.
paper traded for
Yeah,
3 months, 3.5 months, because yeah, just to play it safe. That was this. I would say the one in hindsight, the one regret. I wish I started trading with real money a little bit sooner. But then my dad was like, okay, I feel like you're ready. I remember we were trading Tesla and I was paper trading. I was doing really well that day with paper trading. He was doing obviously real money. I was doing really well. And he was like, hey, listen, like, why not? It was 12 in the afternoon. So like I paper traded in the morning. He's like, listen, why not just
Something on a
try,
live account.
yeah, hop on a live account, start small and see what happens. Like who knows, if worst case you can go back to paper trading. I did that. I was so nervous. Like it was also like my dad's money. He funded my account, so I like didn't want to lose that money. And so I was like shaking, but I ended up trading for about 3 hours. And on my first day, I made like $700, something like that.
It's pretty massive for a first day.
Massive, right? And like that's the difference, right? Most people, they have to learn the hard way. They have to experiment. They have to learn the way that my dad learned through, because he tried trading in his 20s, then in his 30s, quit both times, and then finally in his late 40s, early 50s, he started to really figure it out. He learned it the hard way for me to essentially start making money within like 3.5 months. And that's like the difference in having a mentor versus not having a mentor. Without my dad, like I don't know where I would be today. Truthfully, like I had no idea what I would do because I didn't have any passions at the time. Like trading became my passion. It's weird. I feel like, what do you think about this? Like, I feel like you maybe developed a very early passion to trading. For me, like I developed a passion like 3 to 4 months into it. Like I started to love it.
For me, it was more like I had a passion in like entrepreneurship in the beginning. Like I tried to start different businesses. I watched like all these different businesses you could start online, and I would fail at them. And I then ran into stimuli psych ads, and I got into trading because of it. And I just really liked it. I liked the whole aspect of it. Of just even I was like, damn, if I'm gonna finish school, I'm gonna go work on Wall Street, go be a financial advisor, something like that. So I just really liked the whole world that trading and finance were. Now, I didn't personally have a mentor like you did. You had a mentor you could trust because it's like your dad. You see your dad making money, you're like, hey, no matter what, I'm gonna learn it. I'm gonna be good. I can trust it. I needed to be a little bit like blind faith, and it helped being young. That's like I think it's possible, but I don't actually know anybody that makes money with this. Just people that see it online. But I never found like an exact mentor like that. But having that blind faith and really liking it as a passion like led me to eventually sticking to it. Because if I didn't have a passion for it, would I have stuck it out for 4 or 5 years? Honestly, no. And I have such a passion for day trading in general, trading, swing trading, investing, that honestly, if I was not profitable 10 years later, I'll probably still like be like your dad, still trying to figure it out, still mess around with it with my free time, still look at videos. So for me, it's more of a passion. Now, I'm not saying you need a passion to make money. Like you personally didn't really have in the beginning, but you're like, hey, this makes money, so I'm all down for it. Just like I would, if somebody made me money, I'm sticking to it regardless. But luckily for me, it was a passion. It's like I tell a new trader this is like it's really hard to do it unless it's kind of like the way you did it. It's like you have somebody that's leading you, and you're gonna be fine. If you don't have a passion for it, and you're just there, it's like, hey, I want to make money, and you don't really know what you're doing, you're more likely gonna lose money. And you don't have a passion to stick it out. It's probably best that you kind of go look for something else. And it's kind of like my philosophy around it. It's what I tell all my students all the time. It's like, hey, if you don't like kind of want this all the time, and I watched a lot of interviews with like some really big traders that made way more money than I ever have, and they felt the same way. In the beginning, they would fail, but they like lived for day trading. They would sleep and think about it. They wake up and think about it. They just love the process of it, which not everybody's gonna love. And eventually they became profitable and they scaled it up, and they hit years like 2020 and really good years that you did really well. And day trading is not linear. Like with your dad, maybe like the times that he tried it was not good market condition, so then maybe he just up and failed. And 2020 was like that perfect kind of storm that everybody was doing really well. And then you kind of got to adapt, which is hard for beginner trader to learn when to adapt. So for me, it was always a passion. And again, finance, entrepreneurship, it all kind of feel like ties into a little bit. So it was that style. For me, it was like you were talking about paper trading earlier, how you wish you just started with real money. And I feel like most people should kind of like start with real money. I feel like paper trading, me personally, is only good to learn a certain broker. Let's say you're trying a new broker, you just learned how to buy and sell, what the buttons do, where they are, how good maybe the spreads are with paper trading. When it comes to actually learning how to trade, in my opinion, paper trading is pretty much useless because, like you said, once you get into the real trading, you're like, oh shit, like the emotions kick in, and 90% of it is the emotions. I can teach somebody a setup. I can teach about, what to look for, and you'll learn it within 3 to 6 months. But can your emotions at some point, kind of handle it? And I feel like, did it help you with your dad, like your dad being there and be like, kind of calming you down? Like you enter a trade, like, don't worry, this is your PT, this is your stop loss. Don't be scared. Like hold it. Like for example, for me, when I first took my first trades, there was nobody was there. It was just me and the money that I didn't really have. I didn't have that much money because I was, very young, 18, 19, 20. So like I just closed my positions for no reason. I would not look at the chart. I would not like follow my rules, those sort of things. Was your dad there to like help you? Like, hey, you're following these damn rules, and it's that.
For sure. Like it gave me so much assurance that I was doing the right things, because especially when you're a beginner, if you don't have a mentor, you might think you're doing the right things, but having that person look over and be like, yep, you are doing the right thing, it adds so much confidence, so much assurance to your trading. I feel like as a trader, you can't trade without confidence.
Oh,
Every
big time.
good
I totally
trader,
agree.
you're really confident in the way that you trade. And without that confidence, you're just off, right? You're not gonna have conviction on your setups.
You skip on trades, like that happened to me all the time. If I lose confidence, I'll see a good setup, and because I just don't have confidence, I'm scared, or I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wait for an extra confirmation, and the trade runs, and like, okay, I don't want to FOMO now, and I just miss out on like a really good gainer, which any other day I should have. And that whenever you go on a little bit of a losing streak, you lose 3, 4, 6, 7 trades in a row, it's gonna happen. And like you were talking about confidence, it's all about getting that confidence, sticking to it, and getting kind of momentum. Like when I'm hot for a week, I'm like blazing hot. Like I'll go in 20, 30 trades, win streaks, because I have that confidence and feel like I'm just, seeing the market. It don't happen all the time, but when it does, I kind of like, I know when I'm feeling it. But sometimes then you get overconfident, and that's also somewhere that you need to kind of watch out for, because then you might oversize and over leverage.
100. That's what happened to me today. Like it was like super. So the first, like, today was such a weird day where So right now for me, around late September, early October, it's out of earning season. So for me personally, I am a gap trader. So I trade stocks that had overnight changes in price. These are called gaps. Now, gaps can occur for all sorts of reasons, news, events in the company, but specifically a lot of times they occur because of earnings. Company releases their quarterly earnings,
News, right?
the earnings news comes out, and then investors, they buy and sell during the pre-market or post-market. Stock changes in price overnight, opens at a different price. So earnings is like the busy season for me right now. Earnings is actually about to start in a couple of weeks, but right now it's super slow. So that was my mindset going into the day. Like, I'm taking it easy, I'm slow, I'm prepared to not take a trade. First 2.5 hours, dead, like nothing. I barely took any trades, and all of a sudden there was like 3, 4 setups back to back to back. I started to make money, feeling good, feeling good. And then I'm like, okay, like maybe this is gonna be end up being a great day. And then after that fourth setup, everything kind of like I still like I preserved my my gains and everything, but then all of a sudden I felt okay, now it's calming
Yeah,
back
so
down. And now at that point I was like feeling real. I was hot, feeling really good, and that's one of the most important things as a trader, like balancing when you should be aggressive versus when you should be like conservative. I always like to call it as selectively aggressive, where you might wait hours or days before you see a really good setup, but once you see your setup that you're confident in, you have to be very aggressive. I'm not saying like oversized, but you got to be aggressive. Like, you got to make sure you get in at your right price, have to have conviction in the play. You manage it right. But it's 100% like
no,
it's.
I totally agree with that. I personally, I call it dynamic risk management, and a lot of people disagree with that. A lot of ICT traders, especially, disagree with it. They're always like, "No, you gotta risk exactly the same amount on every setup." And I'll simply ask you this: is every setup an A plus setup? Obviously not. You're only gonna get an A plus setup once, twice a week, once every, 3 times a week, whatever it is. So if you're not getting an A plus setup every time, why are you sizing in the same? I'm the exact same way. If I see an A plus setup, I'm sizing in, I'm adding more to it.
Mhm.
If I see a B setup, I might still take it because I can make money off of it the long term, but I'm not gonna go heavy. And it's very similar if you play poker. If you have pocket aces, are you gonna go heavier on that poker hand? Of course you are, because statistically the odds are in your favor. Trading is the same. If the odds are in your favor much higher statistically because you have your A plus setup, you have your pocket aces, why not size in into that trade heavier? Right now, again, don't over leverage and risk half your account, but risk your full amount. Don't be scared of potentially adding into your position, which is something I like to do. I'll do an initial entry. Price is showing me exactly what I want. I like to call it water my plant. I water my trade, add more to my trade, and wait for MPTs and then scale it out. If you're taking the same size at C setup to an A plus setup, to me, it just doesn't make any sense because the trades that are more favorable towards you. So just add into that. And a lot of people tend to disagree with me, especially ICT traders
Mhm.
tend to disagree with me a lot.
Yeah, no. I always recommend like, so I feel like that also kind of relates to like systematic versus like discretionary trading. So like systematic would be like you risk the same amount per trade, you only take X and X and X setups, and that's it, right? And you follow like a very strict system that like you're able to write in words, right? Like, you write your trading plan. I take this strategy. I risk this amount per trade, where it's very systematic. I always like to tell people in the beginning you want to approach it systematically, but then once you gain experience, like once you have years of experience like us, we know when we see our setup, we know that's our setup. We can go heavier. We could be more discretionary. We could be more like flexible with our plan, and we could size it more because we have the experience. We know that 9 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times, when we see that setup, we make a lot of money. You know what I mean? So in
So
that
you
case,
don't trade mechanically, right? Like you don't trade like, hey, exactly XYZ. I'm taking a trade 100% of the times. Like I personally don't trade that way. I don't trade mechanically. I trade discretionally only. It's like I might see the same thing I saw the day prior, but if I just don't like the setup or I don't like something else, I'll look at, for example, if I'm trading NQ, I'll look at ES, maybe I'll look at the DXY, and if I don't like something there, I'm still not taking it. Even though
hmm
technically on paper it could have looked like the same setup to somebody that's like only follows a certain amount of rules. And also for me, it depends on the day. If there's what kind of news is that day and what kind of day of the week is, because I track my days, I see which days I tend to do better. For example, for my one of my best days is Thursday. So on
hmm
Thursdays I usually size in. Second best day is Monday. worst days tend to be Tuesday and Fridays.
Hmm.
So I keep track of that data, and based on the data, I'll size it accordingly, or maybe I'll skip on a trade. It's not like super clean to me. Do you trade the same way, or do you just are you mechanical? Are you discretionary? A little bit of both?
I would say when I first started, definitely a bit more mechanical, just because I was just very strict with my plan. But then as you gain experience, you start to feel setups. Like I said, you could give me two almost identical setups on 2 different days, and one day I will take that setup, a different day I just won't, because any number of reason. Maybe doesn't have time frame alignment. Maybe the market is, it's not aligned with the market for these very small reasons. Even though it could be the exact same setup, different reasons can like impact whether I take the trade or not. So I would say at this point, very much discretionary. A lot of times, especially, I do a lot of scalping off of order flow, where I read level two data. I read the imbalances between the bid, which you could think of as the buy side, and the offer, which is like the sell side, where I'll take a lot of trades now that 3 years ago I would never even touch. But because now I'm very, adept at reading the order flow, I can kind of hop into a trade, right? Even though it might not even have a perfect setup, not even have a textbook setup, I'll hop into it because I could read the order flow and I just have the experience, right? So I think like I I don't know. I think every beginner trader should try to stick to a system at first that's really strict. And then once they gain experience and once they gain their own style, I always tell a lot of my like mentorship students that I don't want you to trade the same way that I do. I don't want you to copy me. Like, and they're like, what? Like, if I copy you and copy your trades and you make money, that means I'm gonna make money. I'm like, not necessarily. Like, there are certain trades that that resonate with me, that I gravitate towards because I personally like them. They're my style. And I think every trader is so different. I think that's one of the best things about trading, where there isn't one way to make money. There are so many different ways to make money depending on the style of trader you are. So I always like recommend students that like stick with a strict plan that's mechanical at first. Once you gain experience, you figure out what the setups you like to gravitate towards that you make money from, then you can become more flexible, more discretionary based off your style that you've kind of adapted over time.
And I think one of the reasons also is your risk management. We're
Mhm.
gonna always have different account sizes in our people. So maybe a trade is a little more aggressive. I'm fine risking a little more. Maybe I'm up more in the day and I'm fine risking those profits. But I think a lot of beginner traders that get attracted by the mechanical idea. I think mechanically is almost impossible to trade. I don't think I know anybody that trades only mechanically and is
Mhm.
profitable because of all the other variables like risk management that are related to day trading, news, and all these things. But I think a lot of beginners are one a mechanical thing because they're kind of lazy. They want you to just give them, hey, 3 steps. Just do these 3 steps.
Oh
You don't have to do
yeah.
no thinking. Risk this amount. It's super easy, and it's
Mhm.
kind of like that get rich quick mindset that people get into trading for, and then they realize like, shit, this is way harder than it
Mhm.
looks. It's not just follow these 3 steps. It's a lot of it's almost an art, right? Like you're thinking about day trading, you're thinking about numbers, mathematicians, and it is that, but it's also a little bit of an art. At least the way I trade personally, it's always an art to like have that. I've seen the market. I've seen this thing set up 1,000, 2,000 times. For watching the markets for 10 years almost, and I kind of can know what the charts are more likely what I want to do. Not at all times, but most of the times if I see my setup, and a lot of beginner day traders they want to not worry about that. They just want a quick, easy 3-step system they can copy every single day and make money and think it's that easy. But it's a lot of what you mentioned even earlier when you were talking about like, hey, 3 years ago I would never touch that trade, but now you got that time of you've seen the market, you've
Mhm.
watched
Mhm.
the charts hours and hours, and now you kind of can predict it almost a little bit
Mhm.
in a way
Mhm.
based on the level two. It's like people want to skip that step, and no matter what trading strategy, in my opinion, or you're always gonna need that time that watching the charts. It's
Mhm.
just you cannot skip that at all. Like now, some people might learn it a little faster, but you're still gonna need to just watch the charts. And if you can just watch price and like kind of you're gonna see a big difference from like your first day that you're like, damn, I don't know what the hell these candles are meaning, to like
Mhm.
300 days after you're gonna be like, damn, I feel like I've seen these patterns. And even especially like if I'm trading news, like a lot of times in like FOMC news or CPI news, and like the candles will do something, and I'm like, I've seen this play
Mhm.
out 100 times, and I can kind of predict where price is going. So
100%. I think that's a big reason why when people hear the word trading, it tends to have a very negative connotation. Like when people hear the word day trading, like they'll just think, oh, scam, because there's so many people out there that market that sort of, oh, follow this three-step system, and boom, you're gonna start making money. And they market it as that, like 3 steps, and that's it. And it's just like that's not what trading is at all. Like it's
Like you can
you,
have three
yeah,
rules.
you,
Like you can have a
yeah, of
general
course.
like the way you trade is like for example, I have these are what I'm looking at. I'm looking for liquidity. I'm looking for imbalances. I'm looking for reversals within a certain time frame. Like those are my rules.
Hmm.
But now knowing the rules alone and like the way I trade is not enough to you're not gonna get rich just because off of it. You
Yeah,
gotta
no.
kind of know how to apply them, use them together. I see always like trading is like a puzzle. You have your confluences, you have your rules, you have the system that you use, and you need that puzzle. You need it to fit for that kind of setup. And then, of course, in the back end, you always need risk management, right? How to properly risk per that trade or in your account in total. Which, if you trade my strategy, you need risk management. If you trade a manual strategy, you need risk management. If you trade
100%.
ICT strategy,
It's like the
whatever,
backbone of your trading. It's
yep,
the backbone,
exactly.
100%, 100%. Another thing, you need, like you said, you need the hours.
Yep.
And once you put in the hours, you develop, I think, what's called like a trading intuition, where there's sometimes, for example, like I'll be trading with my students and I see a setup and I'm like, yeah, guys, like I love this setup. And they'll be like, wait, why though? Like, what's the exact reason? And there's times where I can't even give you in words exactly why I like it. Like I can say, yeah, it has, these qualities, blah, 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 but you could feel there's some trades I'm sure you could relate where you
Oh,
look at it
totally.
and you could feel it. You're like, yep, like this is my type of like it's hard to it's like a gut feeling. And I had a issue at some point in my trading. Like one of my biggest issues was not trusting my gut. Like sometimes I would have that gut feeling, I'd have my intuition that says, okay, I should do this. And I would logically make a decision against that based off logic, not based off what I'm feeling, my intuition. And almost every time it my intuition was right. And that taught me over the years that trust yourself.
Well, I think a lot of your intuition is probably like you've watched the charts along and
100%.
you've
Yeah.
seen that setup and your like mind like hey, we recognize this setup, and like you
Exactly. Yeah.
can like it's kind of like that subconscious that's like, hey, we've seen this shit a million times, like just take it. But your logical mind might not remember all the times you've seen it.
100%.
So
It's also
it's
like the
probably that.
emotions. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah, the emotions of it and
100%.
everything.
Like,
um
yeah. Like if you're, let's say you're hypothetically your first couple trades, you took good setups, but you're down. They didn't work out, right? That happens, of course. You're down on the day, and then all of a sudden you see a really good setup. Your intuition's telling you this is your setup, but because you're down on the day already, right? Your emotions are like, oh, like you're a little timid, even though that's your setup, right? And then you end up maybe you don't size in appropriately. You don't go full size, or you don't size based off the quality of that setup, which is really really good, and then the trade works really well in your favor, and then you look back and you're like, oh my god, that was my setup. Why didn't I trade it the way I usually would trade it? Why didn't I go full size on it? You know what I mean? And that's the tough part about being a trader, is that you always have to manage your emotions, and over time you're able to just recognize that, okay, I'm like, I feel like you feel the emotion, you're like, yeah, like I'm aware of it, but I'm doing what I need to do.
yeah, I think with emotions you like learn to live with them
Control.
more than actually like ignore them. Like for example, like people are like, damn, Antonio, like didn't you feel FOMO for this trade? Didn't you feel like sad because you lost today? Like, yeah, I feel them. Like I know, like it never gets any easier. It never gets easier losing money. It never gets easier like missing on a really good opportunity because you were doing something else. But you learn to kind of accept them easier. You're like, okay, I understand it'll be a next day. There's always is a next day. There's never been a setup that's like, wow, if I miss that setup,
That's
like my
it.
trading's down.
That's
Like,
it.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
making money again. Like it doesn't like it
Yeah.
doesn't exist. Like you still feel it. You just learn to be okay with it versus like just ignoring it and being like upset. And, like, what are you gonna do? Gonna cry? Like you can't. So
Yeah.
just go move on, and you'll come back the next day, the next week. A big setup will come again, and you'll make money on it. And I've learned to just be okay with it. Like today, market opened up, sold off a few hundred points. There was a setup there, but it was too fast for me to catch. And I was like, whatever. It is what it is. Like I've seen the market sell off 1,000 points many times before.
Yep.
It'll happen again, and I've caught it a few times, and sometimes I'll miss it. It's all part of the training. I'll just waited and waited, didn't fall into a trade until a setup showed up, and I caught a nice trade, and then a little later I caught another couple nice trades, and I had a good day. Like I could have tilted and be like, oh damn, the market sold off. Let me try to catch a rebound play, even if there is not a setup there. Tried and catching a falling knife, and then I could have taken a loss and then another loss and had a bad day, which I've had done that before. I know like, hey, if I miss my first trade and it's kind of like going in one direction really strong, I cannot make the mistake again of trying to catch that falling knife. I've lost doing it, and you move on and you learn to kind of grow from those mistakes that you make. For me especially, it's like a lot of the mistakes I've recognize now, it's something that I had to learn the hard way, right? Like there was nobody there enforcing me or like telling me like, hey, this is a good setup. So I kind of learned that a little bit the harder way, and I think most people are gonna learn it the hard way. But it's kind of like when you I always tell people this, like when your parents are like, don't try drugs, don't drink, don't go out and party. But as a kid, you still go out and do everything they told you not to do, and they're right, but you still gotta experience it yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
They
no,
train the
100%.
same thing. I'll go tell somebody, hey, don't oversize into a news event just because you want to get rich quick, and people are still gonna make that mistake. The students are still gonna go out there and make their mistake until they can learn on their own. Like, yeah, that
Yeah.
was dumb. I gotta listen to and to my mentor. I gotta listen to whatever my parents, and they're right. But they still gotta kind of feel that themselves. Now, there's gonna be people that are gonna give up when that happens, and those people are just not gonna be successful day trading long term. So it's better to give up early. And there's people that are actually gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna learn from it. It was a dumb mistake. I get better, and those people are gonna be successful over the long term, right? Like I'm sure you probably get some of the students too that like you tell them don't do this, but it's still
100%, 100%. I have students who have done like things that you shouldn't do, right? Like oversize your positions, or if FOMC is about to hit, get into a random setup or whatever, and just kind of like gamble. And the issue is that a lot of people do these things that are bad. They know they shouldn't do them, but they get rewarded. Like
yeah.
sometimes they'll
That's
get
probably the worst
they
thing that
get
happened to you.
worse thing.
Yeah.
People, they'll get lucky and they'll like make a lot of money off of like a really bad decision, right? And that is actually worse for you in the long term, because
Yep.
yeah, you made money, but you like reinforced bad behavior. You're gonna do that same thing, but the other 9 out of 10 times you do it, you're gonna like lose a lot of money. But yeah, like I mean, everyone always says learn from your mistakes. A lot of people always say learn from other people's mistakes, but like ultimately, you're gonna learn. People, they're gonna do what they want to do. They're gonna learn off their own stuff that they mess up on. I guess it's just a part of life. I guess you
Yeah,
know.
I think it's a part of life, and like it's so funny that you said that like don't get rewarded whenever you make a mistake. And last week it was a day that's like I told myself and I was telling my students like, yeah, I should skip this trade. It's not a good setup, but I'm still gonna take it anyway. And I got punished
Yeah.
for it, and I took a loss on it. And I was like, that was good that I took a loss because then like
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
like
yeah.
especially if you're trading for a while, sometimes you get overconfident. You're like, I'm good at trading. I'll just take any trade. It'll always go good for me. And I told him it's good I took a loss on it because I gotta get humbled a little bit sometimes here and there to remind myself like, hey, this is still the markets don't care for anybody. They're gonna punish you regardless. You can be the biggest, smartest hedge funds, all these Harvard graduates, all these MIT guys, geniuses. They'll still they'll take huge losses even though they think
For
they're like
sure.
the smartest people in the whole stock market. So it's all about like,
100%.
hey, if you know you shouldn't be doing something, just don't then do it. And
I feel like that's what happened during like COVID, where it was essentially like easy to make money. Like everything went up, like everything was very favorable conditions. There were bad trades, bad setups that just worked during COVID, and that's why everyone started making money during COVID. All these day traders decided to, quote unquote, day traders started to quit their jobs, go full time, and as soon as the bull run kind of stopped and that whole like craze during COVID, like I would say like late 2022, because that honestly, at least for me, the 2020 COVID hit, it started to slow down early 2023. Like the market
yeah,
really
totally.
started to change, and like for me, like last summer, I think it was, yeah, I'm not sure exactly the timeline, but last summer, I had like a month where the market like the setups I used to take, they weren't working anymore. The market's really changed, and
Did you feel any doubt in your trading when that was happening? Did you feel
I
like, damn,
I had to,
my
yeah,
strategy's done, my strategy needs to change, or did you make any
100%.
changes yourself?
You have to, like, I think the one of the most important skill sets that you can have as a trader is adaptability. You have to adapt to what's working in the markets right now, and you can't force setups that used to make you money
Mhm.
and that currently don't. Like if you're seeing your current setups, the ones that you gravitate towards, like for example, I used to do so much level two, order flow scalping. That was my bread and butter. Like no matter the day, I can go in and find two, three, four stocks, scalp, make some money, boom, you're done. Almost like easy money. And then, yeah, last summer there was a month where like zero level two scalps.
What'd you do to adjust it? How'd you change that? Like, hey, this is not working. I gotta either change it up or go somewhere some other route. What'd you do exactly?
So for me, I always classify whenever I look at a trade, it's either a scalp where I'm doing it off of order flow, where like I'm timing my entry and exit off of order flow, and they're usually like quick in and out trades, or it's a chart trade where I get in, set my stop, and it's the usual, I let it play out for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, however long, right? So I either have scalps or chart trades. I used to never chart trade because I was just really good at scalping. And the environment was a really good scalping environment. So I just spent my time doing that as opposed to doing more conventional chart trades. And last summer, I had to readjust. I had to start doing way more chart trades.
This lower market, the volatility's gone down from before
Exactly,
2020,
100%.
and I mine was pretty similar. Like for my trading, like it's kind of always evolved. It's always I later learn something or I change something. People are like, "Yo, Antonio, you used to not look at this 3 years ago." That I've been on social media for 5 years now. So you can go watch my YouTube videos from 5 years ago. You can see like, Antonio, you don't talk about this anymore. What happened to that? And I'm like, the market changes. You gotta change
Exactly.
with it. Like, give you
Hmm.
it's really easy example. In 2020, if you traded only bull flags, you would have made a bunch of money. Like
Hmm.
I'm talking about 70% win rate, 1 to 2 hours. Like you made insane money. Now 2022, bearish market. If you trade bull flags, you would have gotten completely destroyed, like 30% win rate.
Yeah.
And there's data behind it because I remember I was doing the research on it. But if you trade bear flags now, 7% win rate. Now that's just an easy example to show you a retail bull flag. Very easy. Anybody can look up. That's an easy example to show you how the market is always adapting. The market is always changing. If you believe in an algo of the market, the algo is always changing, and it's normal because times change. Trading develops. From how people used to trade 20 years ago, it's a completely different game. Retail is a lot more into it. It's more easier for regular people like us to day trade. We don't have to guess anything crazy. We can just download an app. We can download a software. And we can kind of jump into it pretty easily. So the market changes and the volatility of it changes, and you have to stay very flexible. If you can't be flexible with day trading, you're not gonna make it long term. It's just simple as that. And I've seen it. I've seen guys make a ton of money. Like in 2020, they made a ton of money, and then 3 years go by, they lost it all, and they're back to square one. They quit day
Hmm.
trading. Or opposite, 2022, they were doing really well. Now the market's changed again. They give up and they move on. That's why you kind of always have to keep testing, keeping data. Like I'm very big on like keeping data, Excel
Hmm.
sheets. A lot of traders kind of get bored and don't like that stuff, but I think it's like the work that goes beyond the charts, literally, that people are not making that can give them that edge because you need a little bit of an edge into your trading. Um,
100%. Like journaling, just tracking your trades. People don't like understand that literally an extra 30 minutes every single day of just looking back at your trades, recording your entry, your stop loss, your management, just doing that for every trade every day. It could take 30 minutes, call it an hour. That extra 30 minutes to an hour is the difference between you succeeding and you not succeeding. And not only do people don't want to put in that extra work and just tracking all their stuff, there's also a huge ego element into trading, right? Like in 2020, when let's say they were trading bull flags, right? There were probably lots of traders that were like, "Oh my god, I solved the market. My bull flag strategy with X and X and X quality and confluence is a 80% win rate. I'm the best trader," right? And they develop this ego because they're making money, everything is working. And then as soon as that strategy stops working, they refuse to adapt because it's almost like hurting their ego. It's hurting their inner self, their inner trader, because they're like, oh, but I thought I was the best with this strategy, but now the strategy's not working. And then they lose confidence, right? And it hits their ego and they refuse to adapt. They just keep trying to force what used to work as opposed to what's working right now. And I get this a lot with like new students who don't with new students who have trading experience in the past. I actually prefer to work with people that come in with like a blank slate, never started trading, because I could show them, at least I teach them the right way from the very beginning. versus people who already have experience, they're unprofitable, they have an ego with their strategies, and they refuse to adapt. They refuse to do new things. You know what I mean? And it's hard for someone to learn trading for a year or two, not succeed, and then someone tells them that, hey, you have to stop everything you're doing. You have to do this, and this is the right way of doing it, and stop doing what you did before. It's not working. They have to let go of that. You know, that it took them, let's say, a year or two to develop. They have to let go of that, and that like it hits their ego. You know what I mean? Like,
And yeah, I agree. I tell people this all the time, exactly what you said. I said it's a lot easier to learn something new than having to unlearn something.
100%.
And
Yep.
a great example is if anybody watches basketball, you see Lonzo Ball. When he got into the league in the NBA, his shot mechanics was just really bad. And took him a lot for him to change his mechanics from shooting on the side to shooting it straight forward. He eventually was able to because he worked with the right trainers, got the right mentors around him, and was able to shoot it the right way with the right mechanics. And his 3-point percent went up a ton. And it's the same way with trading. If you have some bad fundamentals, it's really hard for somebody to help you fix them. It's really hard for yourself to overlook them. And I talked about this recently, actually. That's like I learned something into day trading. I learned something that I trusted a guy that I'm very close with, and it hurt my trading. I was doing extremely well. I learned this extra thing, and it hurt my trading more than help it. And it took a ton out of me to just ignore it whenever I saw it in the charts and say, hey, this doesn't work for me. It works for him. I'm very happy for him. I know he does really well. It's just not my thing. And it took me a lot to just remove that. And it's gonna happen with your training career at any time. That's why you have to be careful sometimes what you learn. Like if you're just strategy hopping, like watching 50 different mentors at once, I think long term it's gonna hurt you. Pick a guy that you like, hey, I watch his videos or whatever, my dad, if in the case of Emmanuel, and just learn that. Learn and stick to that. Then after 6 months, 9 months, you're like, hey, this just doesn't work. And you're kind of like, okay, and then you move on. But if you strategy hop all the time, you're just never gonna like really learn one. And there's so many things you're paying attention for. It's just not gonna be good. It's kind of like that Bruce Lee saying: "Be scared of the man that practices one kick 10,000 times versus a man that practices 10,000 different kicks once." Because you'd rather be a master of one thing than being kind of average at a bunch of different things because it's not that good. And whenever you do like practice and whenever you are like paper trading, keeping track of data, this is what one of my drill instructors used to always tell me. Practice is not good enough. Perfect practice makes perfect. If you're gonna do something, don't half-ass it. If you're practicing, you're gonna play in the game, you're gonna trade live the same way you practice. So if I'm Steph Curry, for example, and I go shoot, but I'm just messing around, I'm not using the right form, when I'm in the game, I'm gonna repeat that. I'm not gonna shoot good. I'm not gonna, have the right form. So if you're practicing, if you're paper trading, if you're in a platform account, wherever it is, take it serious. If you don't take it serious, it's like you're just wasting time, and it's gonna just hurt your learning curve over the long term. Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
100%. I feel bad for beginner traders who, like, let's say you've never heard anything about trading. You go on tradingview.com, you pull up the indicators tab, and you literally
we all do that, I think.
you know what's funny?
I've done this so many times.
I have never so when I learned, my dad taught me. I use the 20 period simple moving average, the 200 period simple moving average, volume, like the simplest ones too, like no EMAs, no like volume profile, like the simplest volume. And I've never tried anything else. And I'm so.
You never went down the MACD and RSI route?
Literally, never. I don't
tried
know.
all of them.
I don't like. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel bad for people who, like, let's say don't have a mentor. They don't know how to.
Yeah.
They just go into it and they're like, bro, there's crazy indicator names, like the alligator. You saw that one on trading. There was like an alligator something like.
No, but I thought that one's like a troll one, like the dinosaur pattern. Like I just think the people are messing around.
No, but like imagine you're a beginner and you're like, wait, like I don't know if this is like a troll like indicator or are these real? Like
are stars? People are into old. People are trading the stars now, moon cycles. Have you seen all that? I like you guys like.
It's crazy.
You're laughing, but people really believe it. And I've seen big Twitter pages that have hundreds of thousands of followers, and they tell people to trade bits off the moon. And you know what? It's like I don't like to judge other people's strategy because it's like that's their thing. If they make money, I'm happy for them. I don't care. But I'm like, bro, come on, like let's be serious. Now there is some truth that back in the day, like day trading and like the futures market was based on astrology because of crops. So like farmers would make crop, and based on like if it's gonna be a very good year or not a good year, they'll sell it at different prices. So maybe there's a little truth I gotta look into it. But I know some people are crazy. Before we wrap up, I do have a couple
Q&As.
Q&As. I posted a story since it's the first one. I will pick some of the best one. We'll answer two, three. And one that's the people keep asking. They keep asking, how do you manage discipline after a trading loss or a losing streak? That's one that I've gotten like already 30 people ask me. So man, you
Okay,
go first and I'll answer real
sure.
quick.
So how to maintain or how to manage discipline after a losing streak, or if you're in a losing streak.
How
So
do you manage your emotions slash discipline?
100%. So if you're on a losing streak, you're probably not feeling good about yourself. You're not feeling good about your trading. You're feeling worthless. You feel like everything sucks. Everything is going against you. The first thing you need to do is protect yourself. Lower your risk. I don't care. You usually risk $1,000 a trade. Lower it to 200, to 100, to 50. It doesn't matter. Lower your risk, because if you're not feeling good about yourself, the trades aren't going your way, that's fine. But you don't want to lose money during that process, right? A lot of people don't understand that the best way to increase your P&L at the end of the year isn't necessarily take more trades or do more strategies. It's to literally limit your losers. If you're able to just limit the amount that you lose on your losing trades, you will make more money. And imagine on your losing days, your losing weeks, like when you're not feeling great, you're not losing as much as before. You're going to end up becoming more profitable. So yeah, lower your risk, take some trades, right? Continue the next day, the next week. Once you're starting to feel good, rebuilding your confidence, move your risk back up to the normal amount, and then just take a break, like take a walk, go on the beach,
Yeah,
like,
no,
you know.
I totally agree with that. It's kind of what we talked back earlier about talking about confidence. Make sure you kind of gain that confidence again. And two things that I like to do personally, because whenever you're in a losing streak, you start worrying about how much money you lost. So I hide my P&L. So if I'm in a trade, my P&L, I
Yeah,
cannot see it.
yeah,
I have to literally click on a different tab to go see that P&L. So one, I hide my P&L, and two, you can go call up your broker, your prop firm, wherever you're using, and tell them, hey, this is my max loss for a day. Because you don't want to tilt. And this happened to me. When you tilt, you blow up your account. If you tell your broker, hey, if I lose $1,000 because it's 5% of my account, lock me out for the day, the egg's going to give you time, because you just need time to cool off. Because
yeah,
if you have
100%.
enough time, you'll cool off and you'll be able to survive. Because you got to survive those tilts and those losing experiences. They suck, but it's going to happen and you have to become okay with them. So that was a great question. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. We'll go one more and then we'll wrap it up. Uh, how do you think, let's say this, how do you think you got so good at trading compared to other social media traders, Emmanuel?
I mean, it just goes back to having my dad. But I already kind of explained all that, you know, the importance of having a mentor. And I think the other part is having the work ethic. Like, you got to be relentless. Like, ultimately, you could have the right mentor, you could have the right resources, the right education, everything laid out in front of you, but ultimately, like, if you're not ready to put in the work, you're never going to see results. So just having the work ethic and being able to, I get this question a lot. How do you stay disciplined or consistent? And I hate getting that question, because most of the questions that a lot of people ask us, maybe even in this case, most people know the answer deep down within themselves. They know, you know, how do I stay more disciplined? Just do it. Like, get up and do what you don't want to do. But yeah, I'd say that work ethic and discipline.
Yeah, with the discipline thing, it's kind of funny. It's almost like I tell people this, right? If you are overweight, you want to lose weight, you know exactly what you should be eating. You know exactly what not to eat. Don't touch the
Yeah.
cake, don't touch the
Yeah,
fried
but
food, eat the vegetables. Like, don't eat too much. You know exactly what to do. It all comes out. Just you gotta wake up and do it. Don't let your emotions, take over. Like, do I want to get up sometimes and trade? No, but I'm still gonna get up and take care of my students, make sure they get the best education, make sure I'm trying to trade the best I can. I still will. Will I still go to the gym this day? I'm still gonna go because I know that's what I have to do.
yeah.
And for me, I think what helped me become successful at training, my edge was, again, I just really liked it. I liked it so much that, like, it didn't matter to me the money. I was never in it for the money. I didn't care about the money. It was like a passion, something I enjoyed. I loved every aspect of it. I loved watching videos on it. I loved studying about it. I loved hearing other people's opinions on it. I liked all the stuff that some people don't like, looking at the news events, watching the charts. I really enjoyed it. So it gave me that edge that, like, hey, I'm giving up was never really crossed my mind. I was losing money. I'll take a little break. I'll, paper trade for a while if I don't have money to trade with, but it was never me wanting to give up. So it was like just me enjoying it so much that, like, even though I did not have the right mentor and it took me a while to become profitable, I still like stuck it
Mhm.
out. So that's kind of what my edge was. Well, thank you for the first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys go follow us on social media. Myself on Instagram at Gains Club, on YouTube. Emmanuel, where should people follow you?
Yeah, TikTok. Currently, my Instagram is unfortunately banned. However, I'm in the
You're getting
process.
it back.
Yeah, I'm in the process of getting it back. I was attacked. Long story, but we're in the process of getting that back. So yeah, follow me up. It's just Emmanuel Trades on TikTok, YouTube, hopefully Instagram soon. And yeah, I think for our first episode,
Yeah, we gotta get like.
that was pretty good. I thought not gonna lie, that
Well, people
I
can tell us. People can give us feedback like, "Yo, you guys suck," and then we'll keep doing it just to piss you off. Or you can be like, "Yeah, I actually liked it," and then we'll keep doing it because you guys liked it. So
that
regardless,
was
it's
fast.
a win-win.
I feel like we just started.
Yeah,
and
I know,
like that was good.
It really was.
Yeah.
It was fun though. It was a
That
lot
was
of
fun. And then if you guys have any more topics that you want us to specifically cover, because we literally went into this podcast, we were planning on like sitting down for coffee 30 minutes before and like coming up with topics.
Last minute to get it fixed.
We literally just like that was off the top of our head. Honestly, maybe that's the way. We should just have a piece of paper, like that's.
I like to just get something for some news. Like if there's
Yeah,
some really
news,
good
100%,
news sometimes, I
yeah.
think it's good to have and talk about it. Even when how it impacts the markets in general, because people always ask me, and people don't know that like I have a big passion for long-term investing, which
Yeah.
people
100%.
that work with me they know. But yeah, I think it'd be fun.
100%. All right, so yeah, let us know different topics, and hopefully everybody who's listening to this enjoyed it.